Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host, Jay, aka Knockdown. Jay, how's it going, my guy?
It's going good, man. FIBA tournament stuff is starting up, man. It's some form of basketball, right? In the dead off season, the heat of the off season, hey, man, you get what you can get.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking a lot about that in today's episode because by the end of this month, we're going to see the FIBA World Cup happening. We're going to talk about Team USA, how we like their chances of going into it, and potentially some teams that could play spoiler to them when they go up against them in the tournament up in Manila. It's going to be a good episode, and of course, we're going to be continuing our top 5 list with the top 5 power forwards, which could be the most interesting list that we've had so far, alongside the quiz, alongside the draft. All that good stuff is going to happen on today's episode. But before we start, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our personal accounts at TV on Basketball, at the Knockdown J. Those links will be found in the description below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, remember to follow us on TikTok and Instagram for the best daily NBA content. Jay's been posting his stuff. I've been posting the NBA 2K universe, which is already in season 2, going into season 3. So be on the lookout for that. Those videos are coming out quick and fast daily. All that good stuff. So remember to follow the social media pages for that. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you're listening to the podcast over there, just show your support in any way possible. We appreciate all of you. Jay, are you ready to get into some basketball talk?
Yes, sir.
All right, and we're going to be starting off, like I mentioned, with the Team USA talk because they're going to be heading out to Manila, Philippines at the end of this month, and they're going to be going up against all the best teams in the world in terms of basketball. Of course, when it comes to international play, the USA is going to have some trouble because it's different rules, different skill sets and stuff like that, and facing a lot of players that they haven't faced before, which is definitely going to be something to look out for. But Jay, throwing it over to you. Even though the team, some people are saying they're not liking the roster they put together, how do you feel about their chances going into this tournament?
So I still like them, man. I think at the end of the day, of course, if you want to lean just on the Puerto Rico tape, then you should be feeling really good about the circumstances right now, obviously, right? Seeing that Anthony Edwards, Austin Reeves played really well. Jaren Jackson Jr. came out and played really well as well. I think when you think about the transition of them wanting to build a much younger roster, I think they play up to what the vision of that is supposed to look like. When you saw them on the floor, they play more up tempo. I think they play very together. You can see that the talent is kind of already starting to get a good understanding of coexisting. And let's be honest, TV, the only reason outside of the lack of superstars, so to speak, being on the roster, being a big issue in terms of people and their buzz around worrying about this team is because of the scrimmage against the U.S. select team. That's what this is all about, right? When they hear about Cade Cunningham, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and those boys really competing and playing really well against our roster that we're supposed to be sending into the World Cup, you tell yourself, well, if our young bucks can stick with them, then these teams overseas who are well-seasoned veterans, not just necessarily to the FIBA tournament landscape, but also overseas. These are groups that are much more familiar with each other in terms of playing together, not just in this play setting, but just overall on the basketball floor. There's a lot of other things that typically are always elements under this environment, but tend to factor in a little bit more when our team ends up being this youthful. So I still have a lot of belief in our squad. I just think that this path chosen is going to come with bumps in the road because it's such a diversion from what the U.S. is so used to doing. And that's the quote unquote sending the best in the world. And it's not that these guys aren't, but we just know what caliber of players we've seen in the past. And we just all obviously know that isn't it. It's just going to be a simple transition of getting used to this new brand of basketball we want to play on the world stage.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we're complaining about the team. There are still some nice young talent over here. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, Mikal Bridges, Anthony Edwards being kind of probably the biggest name out of all these guys here on the roster. At the end of the day, I do like what the U.S. is doing. And I'm going to be even more of a fan if this is kind of like the direction they are moving forward. Because if you remember, Jay, you watched The Last Dance, right? I'm assuming you did. As a
Yeah.
Chicago fan, right? One of the things that Michael Jordan talked about in the documentary is that when it came to Team USA and the reason why they lost to Russia, like back in the day, with like such a stacked with a stacked roster, is that these US teams just do not know how to play with each other. And when you're sending the best players in the world, of course, there's going to be some people like, oh, I can't make it to this tournament because, I just won an NBA championship. Oh, I can't make it to this because of, some injury or something like that. What the other teams have done, like always the other countries, I say teams, but countries, is that they have developed a program where they have guys commit for like 3-4 years, work together in this training camp, in this setting, and basically every single summer, and they work together as a team to fight in this international stage. I don't think the U.S. has that type of program like settled in yet. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe like it's just kind of like my naiveness like coming to getting to me. But I feel like the U.S. isn't like there's always like a new set of guys going into each tournament, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's FIBA, whether it's the qualifiers, whatever. It feels like there's like a new group of guys, and I'm telling and I'm saying these guys are all talented. There's nothing. Well, the U.S. is nothing short on talented players, but the chemistry, the way that these guys play together, they need to build that in order to compete on a national stage. If this team does well and they go on to win gold and they commit to this team going forward to maybe the 2024, 2026 Olympics, whenever the next one is, I would be more comfortable than that than sending a completely new roster of like even better players, because that these guys are going to like commit to the program, stay together, work together every single summer, and try and build towards that international success. I feel like the U.S. hasn't had that in a while. I know for like my team personally, Team Canada, Nick Nurse before he left the team set up a 3 to 4 year program where if you didn't commit to these first 2 years, you are not going to be eligible for the Olympics. You're not going to be eligible for this World Cup. When you have that type of commitment, especially from like the star players in the league, or in this case the young stars in the league, and you can just continue to build that camaraderie, this chemistry, I'm comfortable with even this sort of team going into the Olympics. So if this is kind of the test run and maybe this is the type of team they want to see moving forward, I'm fine with that. But they need to pick a direction. I know this sounds like NBA basketball terms, but they need to pick a direction with this team. It looks like they're going young with a couple of veterans, thrown in there with the Cam Johnsons, the Bobby Portises, and all that. But when you have this mix of guys, I would want them to stick together and try to work together to not only go do well, whether they do well or not in this World Cup, but even going forward into like the Olympics and everything.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that just does need to be embraced is a lot of times we have this thing, like again, you mentioned being a Chicago Bulls fan. One of the main things that I had rested my laurels on last season actually was Zach LaVine coming out of playing at that level under Greg Popovich, right? I
Mm.
think one of the most notable things about that is I think a lot of guys come out of World Cup play and they just come back as different players. They've learned more. They've had to pick up different skills because the play style is different. They've had to learn how to play with players who are on a similar caliber as them, and it forces you to work within a different role than the one you're typically faced with in the NBA. And you come back as a more well-rounded player because of it. Not in all cases, but I think in many cases you come back as a much more improved player. I think one of the bigger talking points, for example, my player Zach LaVine, is a lot of people were talking about his focus on defense and how that was something that could be a big stake, a big talking point coming back for the regular season, because if Zach LaVine at the two guard position as one of the better two guards scoring wise in the NBA could compete defensively, at least against his own position, that would make the Chicago Bulls that much more formidable because they would be able to put their best player on the floor while also being able to not fear what he gives up defensively. These are different things that I think the World Cup stage gives you an opportunity to see. And I actually think when you look at it more from a developmental perspective, yes, you're representing your country. But I think when you think about the developmental perspective, not just of the players, but of the game, these younger guys out of our league going, I think might even be the best thing for the NBA long term in terms of the product, because their development over there comes back to the league and it makes us a much more fundamental league than just the punching dunks on everybody and shooting threes from
Yeah.
4 point range. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
makes guys play within a more constructed system, and it teaches guys more than just I'm an ISO scorer, I'm a 3 and D wing, I am a corner specialist. It teaches you how to grow beyond just the roles that you've typically been handed on the team you typically play for. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think like teams, especially with the young guys, they would love to have their young guys that participate in this, like you mentioned, to kind of like be accustomed to different type of competition and like to build like their game around like the international play. I mean, a lot of guys talk about it. International game, more fundamentally sound, more team oriented. That type of stuff is great to be learning over there overseas, and you get to kind of build something there and like learn how to work with different players because like we know the NBA is always an ever changing league. Rosters change from here and there. It's a good way to kind of learn how to play with different players, and it's something to like really look out for. And I think it's like U.S. team should be really interested because, like I mentioned, the 2026 World Cup. Imagine having this U.S. team, like very similar players like the players that we have right now. 3 years from now, you're gonna have a more seasoned Paolo Banchero. You're gonna have a more seasoned Anthony Edwards. These guys, like by that time, could be top 20, top 15 players in the league. Developing them early, having them play with each other already at this stage, is something that could be really, like really good for, again, like you mentioned, the NBA, but also for Team USA going forward. I really hope that they kind of stick with this. They hope they stick with these like next couple guys and that they're committed to Team USA in the long term moving forward. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a really interesting tournament to see how this team really does kind of work together. Because like you mentioned, there's going to be some growing pains. It's not going to be all like peaches and roses like right away with this team. They still have to get used to playing each other. And once it becomes more competitive at the World Cup stage, it's going to be something for them to really get accustomed to. But give them time, they could be really good. But Jay, I'm gonna flip this over question to you. We stated this might be like the most vulnerable team USA has looked at in a minute. We have a few of the rosters over here open next to us. When looking through some of these, is there like some is there some countries that you think that can potentially, chink the armor of Team USA going into this tournament?
I definitely think there's a few. I mean, at the end of, I mean, the most notable, and I hate to bail to the easy one, but TV, you guys in Group H, man,
Yeah.
this entire Group H is kind of crazy. Like Canada, tons of talent over there. Me and you were talking off camera about how France is always pretty dangerous, and of course they've got some decent talent over there. Eli Okubo, Frank Ntilikina, Nicholas Batum. Who Nick Batum? Let's be honest. The World Cup space is where Nicholas Batum gets to be the Nicholas Batum of old. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
He doesn't really get to play the 3-and-D wing, fly around, be a point forward. He doesn't get to do that stuff with the LA Clippers. When he steps out here on the World Cup stage, this is when he really gets busy.
Evan Fournier goes nuts.
the boy is a demon when he steps off U.S. soil. I don't know what it is, but when he steps off U.S. soil, this boy Evan Fournier is a different type of dude. And then we know Rudy Gobert. This man Rudy is out here shooting threes now. I don't
Yeah.
know if this is going to translate when he comes back over to U.S. soil, but in terms of the FIBA play, hey, he's trying something new. And I mean, I'm not going to say it's necessarily working for him. We haven't seen a big enough sample size, but yeah, man. And then I would even say, again, even with Latvia, I don't necessarily want to say anything too crazy about them, but I like Rodions. Kristaps Porzingis is playing in this group, and I think Kristaps, watch out for him in general in this FIBA tourney, because I think that it's going to be interesting to see what kind of energy he plays with, knowing that he's now on one of the most. This is easily the most competitive championship caliber team he's been on since being drafted. And I think that when you look at his recent contract extension that he signed, and you hear a lot of the stuff that he's talked about since being brought over to the Boston Celtics, he seems like he's kind of at peace right now. He seems like he's kind of at a place where he feels the best about his basketball mortality and his overall basketball ability than I think we've seen in the past. And that includes the fact that one time ago, he was an all-star caliber player. And so I think when you factor all that stuff in, I'm not saying that he's going to carry. I don't think he's going to carry Latvia or anything, but I think there will be a lot to pull from this FIBA run if Latvia does very well and Kristaps Porzingis plays really well and shows us a lot of those all-star traits. So this Group H is really, really good. Um, Other than that, though, I'll let you talk and I'll scroll through and see if there's anybody else that really stands out.
One team that stands out to me. I mean, showing off to Canada, I love it. The only thing is like the Jamal Murray injury now that just kind of surfaced this last week kind of gives me a bit of a worry, but hopefully he's still able to play. I would love to see. I mean, because let's be honest, when you look at this entire FIBA tournament, there's no backcourt touching Jamal Murray and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's
Yeah, for
the
sure.
filthiest backcourt in the tournament. If those guys are healthy and they're playing, that's going to be a damn good team to look out for. But Jay, Eurobasket 2021 winner, 2022 winners, Spain. They have basically the same team going here. It feels like they've had the same team over the last 8 years. They have former NBA players in Sergio Llull, Alex Abrines, Rudy Fernandez, Victor Claver. Then they have some of the younger NBA guys in the league, like Santi Aldama, Usman Garuba, Willie Hernan Gomez, Juancho. Low key, this team has been together for a hot minute. Mixing with the veterans, mixing with these young guys. I think this team might be a bit dangerous, bro. This team might be a bit dangerous. I mean, it's not the Spain of old. It's not the Spain of old with like the Marcus Gasols, the Pau Gasols, the Calderons, all those type of guys.
There you go.
Love those guys. But man, Spain cannot be like messed around with. I think they're gonna show up in this tournament.
I think it's funny that you bring up Spain only because I feel like in a weird way they're kind of walking into this FIBA World Cup situation kind of similar to the US team. Like they're used to a specific type of product on the floor in terms of just how they play at a high level and some of the names that they've had. Granted, I think they have a lot more camaraderie on this roster. You mentioned this team has been together for a hot minute, but I think some of the newer faces in terms of NBA talent don't represent, I think, what they're used to either.
Yeah.
I think another team I was going through, I can't believe we didn't put Australia in this mix. Australia?
I was going to talk about them next.
Australia TV? I'll kind of pass it over to you since they were already kind of another team on your list. But, dude, Australia looks insane. At least, like, I think they've got a few bright spots.
Yeah, no, because like if you look at the last Olympics, they came third. They got the bronze medal over there in the last Olympics, and they still got a bunch of their guys still there with Dante Exum, Joe Ingles, Jock Landale, Matisse Thybulle, all those type of guys. I mean, sadly, there's no Aaron Baines, there's no some of those other guys that we're accustomed to, but they've got an infusion of young talent with Josh Giddey, Dyson Daniels, Josh Green. Like they have a pretty solid roster, and they have a pretty good system down there in Australia as well. So I just want to talk about how good they are. Shout out to also the Daily Dribble podcast. They put me on this guy a couple years ago. He's pretty solid. He plays over there in the Australian League, and I think he's just moving over here to the U.S. now. Jack White. He's been the best player over there in the Australian Basketball League for a hot minute. Shout out to the Daily Dribble podcast. He's someone to look out for. They've been hyping this man up for a while now. But hey,
I think no. I mean, I was just gonna say like Australia. I think the other thing too, when you just look at them, I mean, I think the interesting thing about the U.S. right? We talk about who can stand in front of the U.S. specifically. You think about this youth that's been infused in the U.S. National team now. They play very up tempo. They're gonna play a lot faster. This is a team that not only can hang like in terms of athleticism, but they can defensively. Dyson Daniels, Matisse Thybulle, Josh Green, all flying around. Like this team could get ridiculous. And shout out to Dante Exum for remaining relevant. The dude has played really well overseas and now is going to be a part of, I believe, the Dallas Mavericks. So This is another guy, ironically. Okay, so he's currently on the Dallas Mavericks. I just talked about a guy who's formerly on the Dallas Mavericks. Another guy that I'm keeping an eye out on, Dante Exum, as a dude who I think making his transition back to the league, I think if he can show that he can hit that three ball at a high clip, that's going to make Mavericks fans that much more enthusiastic about seeing him play for this squad, because the Mavericks have, they have championship aspirations. Him also playing next to Josh Green, I think is also very imperative when you talk about how this scales back to the NBA. They're going to be playing together a lot during this run, and that's going to only make their continuity when they end up back in the States that much better when they link back up with the Dallas Mavericks. Kind of crazy because Matisse Thybulle was also going to be a Dallas Maverick if the Portland Trailblazers didn't match the offer. So that's pretty insane to look at how that all played itself out. But yeah, sorry to harp on them so much more, but I think it's just you do have to give them their flowers, because between the young talent they have, the defensive capability they have, and at the end of the day, X Factor of the year, Patty Mills, man.
Of course, man. Yeah, freaking international tournament Patty Mills is a freaking demon. He's gonna be one of the best players of the tournament. We already know that 100%. But some of the other teams I want to just shout out. Germany, Team Germany has some low key ballers on that team. They have the Wagner brothers and Franz and Mo. They got Dennis Schroeder on that team this year. Isaac Bonga, former NBA player Oscar da Silva. Daniel Tice is on that team. Could be a little bit of a sleeper over there. Maybe Franz shows out a bit more in international play. Your boy Vucevic represented Montenegro over there. He's on that team. Honestly, I would be a lot more interested in Lithuania if Sabonis was playing.
Yeah.
If Sabonis
That's the
was
big one.
Yeah, I mean, Valanciunas is great. I love the guy, former Raptor. Has a place in my heart for him, but I just think that this team would have such a whole other aspect to them if they had Sabonis on their team, especially with the year he just had with the Sacramento Kings. That would have been great. Other teams I want to shout out. I know I had a couple here. I mean, how are you feeling about Greece? I feel like Greece gets hyped because of Giannis, but they don't really do well in international tournaments as we would hope they would do.
Yeah, that's exactly how I kind of look at it. I think it's one of those where you're always going to be enthusiastic about them because Giannis is at the forefront. So of course you're going to want to watch them to see what spoilers they can make. But I don't necessarily see them. I don't think we typically see them as a team that we're on the watch for, like, oh, they're going to make a deep run. So they're going to be competitive. They're going to be competitive in these World Cup games, especially I think we'll see early on in some of these exhibition games that they're going to be a team that's going to hang around. The question just would be how long, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Other teams, before we move on, to shout out, Serbia, again, would be so much more cooler if they had Nikola Jokic on that team. But still some solid guys over there. Nikola Jovic. They got Nedovic, former NBA player. Bogdan Bogdanovic over there. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else I recognize. I mean, it's kind of a tough squad. I mean, isn't Smoliak part of a former NBA player as well?
I think so. The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, so I think he used to be in the NBA as well. It's a former few guys, but again, would have been a lot nicer if Jokic was there. And then looking through these other teams, Italy wasn't how it used to be, even though they have a bunch of older players over there. And I guess lastly, shout out to the Philippines, my home country, the country that's hosting the World Cup. It's a bunch of guys that probably a lot of guys haven't heard of. Andre Blatch is no longer playing for the team, but they got Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's going to be there. This man's going to average 30 points a game in this tournament.
No, really, dude. Honestly, there's going to be guys that I think are just going to be highlighted in a really positive way just because their role is going to change. Jordan Clarkson gets to be, a 1A on this team. Of course, we mentioned it with Giannis, with Greece. Obviously, Slovenia falls into the same exact category when you talk about, you don't necessarily know about how far they're going to go, but watching Luka on this stage, kind of back within an environment he's very used to and comfortable with his long-term professional history overseas, something to keep an eye out on. So, of course, there's going to be some real roadblocks if you're talking about the U.S. team this year. And I think the biggest and most important thing for a young, hungry team like this is to just be self-aware and understanding to the point that you're not playing down to competition. You're still one of the best groups in this tourney. You still are one of the better collections of talent in this entire tournament. One of the biggest things that's hurt the U.S. in the past is underestimating the world in terms of the U.S. versus the world stage. And I think that with a younger squad, I think that's something that I don't necessarily want to say has been alleviated, but I think it's something that hopefully will be less of an issue because these guys have a little bit more to prove when comparing them to FIBA teams of the past.
Yeah, 100%. They're in for it. They're in for it for sure. And they're gonna once the tournament starts, they're gonna playing international is gonna really hit them in the face real quick. So all about how they're gonna be able to take those punches. And we've seen in the past that the USA were able to bounce back. Can this team do it? Again, it's not the type of names that we're used to seeing there, but I still have a good hope that the US are still probably gonna be the likely favorites in this tournament. But we'll have to wait and see how things play out. Jay, we're gonna move on to the next topic. And this topic is about to go a bit crazy because we've done the point guards. We've done the shooting guards. We've done the small forwards. We are now going to be ranking our top 5 power forwards. And, man, when I tell you we were kind of debating this off camera even a little bit beforehand, this one might be the toughest list of them all, Jay.
Yeah, I didn't realize how competitive the power forward position was and how the realignment of the league has really helped out. TV, just as a like a I don't even think this counts necessarily as a spoiler to an extent, but just as an interesting name that moves into this category is Carl Anthony Towns. He's always been considered as a center in these types of rankings, and now him being put at the power forward position, it realigns things so much that you're just like, okay, where does his skill set fit in all of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it tough.
Yes, it is definitely tough for sure. And we're going to be going through each of these five names in a bit. But Jay, honorable mentions. I have this is like probably the most honorable mention I've had for any of these lists. But hit me with some of yours.
Yeah, man. Pascal just barely missed it. He was like a tough one. I still could probably I could probably still be convinced to bump him in.
Yeah.
Evan Mobley, Julius Randle, and Paulo Banchero. Again, a much longer list than I'm used to.
Yeah, we basically have a lot of the same players on the list. I was really considering Mobley. Triple J was in the mix for me as well in there. But my top five list, again, I think this is the one where we're going to have the most disagreement on. Maybe not in 1 and 2. I think 1 and 2 we might have pretty similar. But the other ones is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Jay, at number 5, who do you got?
Um, I end up bumping Cat in. I end up bumping Cat in at number 5.
Wow.
Um, This one was tough, but I think that at the end of the day, despite the fact that he has some defensive concerns, Carl Anthony Towns is still one of the best offensive bigs in the NBA. And that scales very well. I think that unfortunately the representation of that has not been as great in recent memory. And TV, me and you let him have it in these recent playoffs with the way he performed
Yeah.
and underachieved in comparison to his co-star Anthony Edwards, who I think in his first time being on that stage really rose to the occasion as opposed to Carl Anthony Towns, who I feel kind of shrunk under the pressure, fouled out a few times in that series, something that was pretty uncharacteristic. But I think the offensive capability of Carl Anthony Towns is far and beyond so many different players at the big man position. And when you talk about the 4-man spot, this is TV. Something that doesn't get discussed a lot is that the power forward position may arguably be one of the most influential positions in the league today in terms of play style. If you have a rim running 4-man, you have to have a stretch big at the 5. If you have a stretch 4, you have to have a guy who can be a legitimate rim protector at the center spot. If you have a dude who can pick and pop, but he's not necessarily a 3-point shooter, but he's a guy who can step out and shoot the J at the mid range. You need to be able to have a point guard who's more pass oriented, but can work within a pick and roll scheme. All of these different skill sets that you need across your roster kind of get formulated around how does your power forward play. So even if your power forward isn't an all-star caliber player, his play style still has such an influence on how the rest of the roster can be constructed in a real formidable way. And I think that at the end of the day, you can still build a formidable roster around Carl Anthony Towns, built around perimeter defense, putting a shot blocker like Rudy Gobert at the nail, being able to have a ball handler like Anthony Edwards at the helm who's on the perimeter. There's a lot to like about what Carl Anthony Towns provides. I think his defense is a big knock on him, but I think, again, I think the offensive skill set that he provides is such a big floor raiser under the right circumstances that I'm gonna give him his due. I'm gonna give Cat his due, despite the fact that maybe some might view this as a bit high. He might be a guy who's more in the honorable mention lane. Depends.
Depends. It depends. I like that pick at number 5 for Carl Anthony Towns. At my number 5, I hate to do it to him because I think that he could be so much more. I'm going to go with Zion Williamson.
Ooh, okay,
I
okay.
am going with Zion Williamson. And we were discussing about it. Are we talking about talent? Are we talking about going into this upcoming season? Yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, in his 4 years, Zion has played a total of 114 games. Now, in those 114 games, he's averaging 26, 7, and 4.
Yeah.
which is nasty. But only playing 24 games in his rookie season, 29 games in this season just passed, missing the entire season before that, and with still question marks whether he's going to be able to start this season coming up. I'm sorry, that is just like way too much concern for me. As much as he is dominant on the court, we talked about it after that run that the Pelicans had like in the play-in tournament. I think it was like 2 years ago, where they like took the Suns to the limit. It felt like, you know what, add Zion to this mix. This team is a near title contender. The problem is Zion cannot stay on the floor, and that has to have some sort of drawback with him. We talked about it with Kawhi Leonard last week in the small forward position. There's talent on the floor, and we know that Zion has that talent. But when you're not there producing for your team when they need you, they're paying you a max contract and you have only played 100-something games. You need to show me more than that. We know the talent's there. We know that when he's on the floor, he could be dominant. We need to see long stretches of that. We need to see it in the playoffs. I don't think we've seen this man play in the playoffs yet.
We have not. Unfortunately, we have not.
We haven't unfortunately seen that yet. So, as much as we know that Zion's a possibly top 15 talent in the league, not just at his position, he's not just top 5 in his position, but top 15 talent in the league when he's healthy. The fact that we haven't been able to see him on the court nearly as much as we would hope so has to bring him down on this list. I have him at number 5. I wish I could put him higher.
I can't even be mad with that. I have him higher. I guess I can reveal this now since we're already on the topic of Zion Williamson. Yeah. I actually had Zion at 3, but that's the thing. I think that's the part that makes it so hard. And this is one of those players that we were talking off camera about. I think you could talk me off of a couple of these guys. Maybe not necessarily off the list, but off of maybe my pivot. And with Zion, you mentioned it. You used my own argument against me in this sense. We talked about Kawhi Leonard last week, and that was one of my big talking points. Is as much as I love the upside talent, he's a guy that doesn't play on the floor for you. Zion Williamson, now the power forward position is a little different because although there's a lot of flexibility here, you have to favor different. Again, the play styles thing I think is so much differently weighed at the power forward position as opposed to the point guard, the shooting guard, the small forward. I think it's so much different in terms of what your 4-man provides. And for Zion Williamson, you said it yourself, for this to be a guy who, when healthy, is considered as a top 15, some people were going out on a limb and saying he's a top 5 talent when healthy. If that's the kind of range that you're putting this guy in, it's hard to put him at the bottom portion of a top 5 at his own position when you think about the capability that he has. Again, the availability aspect is the part that hurts him. That's the part that I think that if you wanted to talk me down from 3 and move it, and maybe we will as we progress through the rest of this list, but that part, that's the big anchor on Zion Williamson that I think if you gave a good enough argument for someone else, I could really lean in someone else's favor because that injury history, it's not something that's 1 season or 2 seasons. This has plagued Zion Williamson's career to the point that he, as good of a talent as he is, has been brought up in trade conversations simply off of the fact that they don't necessarily know if they can build around him long term if there's nothing necessarily to build around because he's never on the floor. So I put him at 3. I think I was focusing more on upside talent and projecting moving forward. But like I said, as we progress through this, I could see a world where maybe you end up talking me down, man. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's tough to do it. And like I mentioned, the talent is always there with Zion. We always know the talent is there. We just need to see it on the court more. Hopefully we can see that more this year. Hopefully he's available for day 1, which is still a question mark in the air right now. So hopefully we can see more of that from Zion this year. Jay, who is at your number 4?
I have Jaren Jackson Jr. I have to admit, this was another one of those where I was a little scared that I was using recency bias and a little bit more of an upside play. But this past year was very impressive to me, man. Obviously, one of the biggest knocks that will always stick with Jaren Jackson until he improves it is being able to stay out of foul trouble. That's always going to be the biggest thing that hurts him in terms of how we view him on a big scale. But offensively, he provides just about everything you need from the big man position as a guy who plays the stretch 4 but still allows himself to be a big-time rim defender. Him and Steven Adams was one of the best offensive rebounding combos in the entire NBA. Now, I admit Steven Adams had a lot to do with that, but he helped as a part of a 1-2 punch in the front court to be one of the better offensive and defensive rebounding teams in the NBA last season. He was a big part, again, Steven Adams as well, but he was a big part of why the Memphis Grizzlies, despite the fact that they don't necessarily have a ton of crazy defensive versatility across the board, they were one of the better defenses in the NBA and especially in the Western Conference. Jaren Jackson is the reason why guys like Dylan Brooks are allowed to be considered as top tier defenders, is because although he is a physical defender on the perimeter, having a shot blocker to the capability of a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., it allows those pesky physical defender types to be that much more pesky and up in your grill. And that's something that I think really opens up a lot for the rest of the team. It allows guys like Desmond Bane to play much more aggressive. It just allows everybody to be a little bit more risque about how they play defensively. And I think that's always really good, especially when you talk about building a defense. You want to be able to build a defense that can be effective, but take chances. Jaren Jackson Jr. is literally the definition of a guy who is effective, but takes a lot of chances. And I think that's something worth betting on.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't have him on my list. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to this is the hardest list to kind of judge, because he just for me, he was the one who was just right outside my list. And I feel like you could see the potential in Jaren Jackson when Ja Morant's on the court. You're going to see more of that coming into this upcoming season with Ja Morant missing the first 25 games or so. And you're probably going to see that even more in this international play coming at the FIBA World Cup. But Jaren Jackson Jr., I think there's this offensive potential that is just kind of lying dormant there with Jaren Jackson Jr. that he could, if he was just given the opportunity, could take the next step. I don't think that that's going to be possible when you have someone like a Desmond Bane alongside your team who's already like a 20-something plus point per game scorer. Same thing with Ja Morant, who's going to average near 30 a game when he comes back. But it's something there, but I just have yet to see it. The other thing with Jaren Jackson Jr., and this is my only thing with him defensively, you need to have Steven Adams there for him to be at his best self. You need to, because you need someone because firstly, he's not the best rebounder in the world. He's not the best rebounder, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is. But the fouls are pissing me off every single year when I see this man play in the playoffs. He has not eclipsed 30 minutes per game in a season yet, and this guy's a starter. This guy's Defensive Player of the Year. Now you could say, isn't that super impressive because he won Defensive Player of the Year and he averaged only 28 minutes per game? Sure. But the fouls, he's always going to be near the top of the league in fouls. He always takes chances, but those chances hurt him, especially come playoff time. I want to put him higher on my list. I know his defensive impact is there, one of the top, probably the top shot blocker in the league at the moment. I just need to see a bit more from him. I just want to put that out there because I'm not going to talk about him on this list. But at number 4, you had him off your list. My Raptors bias must be showing, but I'm going with Pascal Siakam, and I still think he's one of the most underrated players in this league. I'm going to tell you why. Pascal Siakam, if you look at just his improvement year to year to year, he's adding, he started off at his rookie season averaging 4 points a game, now up to 24 points a game, and every single year you could just see the defensive improvement, the ball handling, the playmaking, the three-point shooting, the shot creation, the mid-range shot. I feel like he has everything that you want in a power forward. Now, has the Raptors success has the playoff success really benefited him that much this year in the last couple of years? Not really. He hasn't been the best playoff performer. But when he's on the floor, when he's healthy, he's had his injury concerns the last couple of years as well. He is able to do everything you need out on the basketball court. And this is coming from someone who's watching him every single game, has watched him ever since he was a rookie. He can defend the best player when possible. They're not going to do that with him because they need him too much on the offensive end. He can create his own shot. Sure, does he turn into a fidget spinner sometimes? Yes. But at the end of the day, this guy can create his own shot. He has learned to create for others. And the accolades are backing him up. He's a 2-time All-Star. He was one of the biggest jumps in terms of production when it came to the 2019 NBA championship. 2-time All-NBA player. He's just shown that he is willing to learn. His work ethic is there, just trying to get better every single year. And at 28 years old, I just don't think he's going to plateau here. I think that he's just going to keep getting better and better, whether he's on the Raptors this upcoming season or in the next team. He's going to show why he is a top power forward in this league, and we're going to have discussions even more that he is a top 20 player eventually. Pascal Siakam, his game is just continuing to grow and grow, and I think he's going to show up again this year, whether it's on the Raptors or not. Give me him at number 4.
I think the funny part about it is when you talk about Pascal Siakam, and again, you definitely put on a good campaign for your boy. I think of all the people that I had on the honorable mention list, this was the guy who I think not only had the ability to hop into my top five, but I think the ability to really hop up my top five if Zion Williamson became a very big question mark. Because I think that Pascal Siakam, there is a world where if you think about the upside of what he provides, especially in a serviceable position, he could be considered as more effective than even Jaren Jackson Jr., not just because of his ability on the floor, but his ability to handle the ball, his ability to operate as a single option or a number one option, his ability to be versatile on the defensive end where he can guard, let's say the 2 through 4 probably
2 through 4.
pretty relatively
Yeah.
effectively. So there's
Yeah.
a lot to really like about him. So there's a world where even though Pascal Siakam like isn't on my list, there's a world where I could bump Zion Williamson down, bump Cat off, and put Pascal as high as I have Zion right now. Like that might we'll see when we get to the end if I make that kind of adjustment. We're gonna kind of still kind of talk through the rest of the list because I don't know who you have at number three. My number three is Zion, but that'll be where things get kind of tricky. But Pascal was one of those guys that like literally when I put the top five together, I realized he wasn't on it, and he just became an honorable mention kind of by default because I wasn't necessarily sure where to post him if I were to put him in that top five. So it's kind of weird. It's one of those things that I think by the end of this segment I'll have a better beat on. But Pascal is easily, I think, the best player that I left out of my top five, and that makes me wonder a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, did he tail off at the end of the last season? For sure. As like sometimes like fatigue does get to him at times, but I think with a new fresh season, maybe with a new coach, maybe in a new system, depending if the trade does happen or not, I think that Pascal Siakam is going to continue to show that he has all NBA level potential, all NBA level talent, and he's done it a couple times already, and I think he still has the ability to do that going forward. Jay, we know your number three is Zion, but make your case as to why he's your third best power forward.
So I said it earlier, man. I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is I was looking at upside. I think when you talk about a player, and I don't want to beat this drum too much because, like I said, I already kind of mentioned a lot of my pitch for it. But when you look at a guy and you say that when he's healthy, he's a top 15 player in the entire NBA, that has to matter. That has to mean something. And again, I mean, this is a little kind of skewed because, again, the guard position is so hefty. But if Zion is a top 15 talent in the NBA, then he's at bare minimum a top three player at his own position, just based off math alone, right? If he's top 15, the top three guys at each spot, there you go. Now, of course, it's a little bit more wishy-washy than that. We would love it for it to be that black and white, but when you look at it circumstantially, he is a guy with significant upside, and he's a dude who, when he is on the floor, is one of the most efficient, one of the most effective NBA players as a scorer that we've seen in the league. And there are spurts. Now, granted, as opposed to his Duke tape, his NBA tape defensively has not nearly jumped off the page, but there are spurts where he shows effectiveness on the defensive end where he could be one of the craziest two-way players from a highlight factory machine standpoint that we've ever seen in this league. So there's a ton to love about Zion. And unfortunately, I think the health is the part that hurts his case the most in this kind of conversation. He's also the guy that I think is the biggest flight risk to fall down this list. Again, I think I would be more likely to bump Karl Anthony Towns off my top five and bump Zion down than I am to take Zion completely off the list. But it's tricky. It's tricky nonetheless because I think the upside of both guys offensively, it speaks volumes to how they effectively benefit their teams on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, you made the point that Zion, in the spurts that we've seen him, has looked all world. And I think that, like I mentioned that when I mentioned him in my top five as well, I just value kind of the availability factor more. But if we're looking at your upside and the potential that he could play like probably the most games in his career this upcoming season, if he is ready, if he's able to stay healthy, that is a good point. But at the end of the day, I need to see it, Zion. I just need to see it more. I respected at number three because honestly, that's as high as I would put him as well if we're talking about just pure talent. But at the end of the day, for me, I just need to see it more. But I do respect him at number three. You were talking about kicking this guy off your list. I think this guy is one of the most underrated players in ball. Karl Anthony Towns is my number three.
Okay, all right.
Karl
That's what makes the Pascal thing very interesting. So give me your case.
Karl Anthony Towns, I feel like people forget how good he is. I feel like because it feels like such a long time ago. Do you remember the GM survey, Jay? Do you remember the GM survey?
The surveys, he was the top guy from the GM surveys for like 3-4 years
Three,
straight.
4 years straight. And I saw it. This guy was averaging like 26 points per game. This guy was like one of the top 3-point shooters in the league. This guy one of the top rebounders. Sure, the defense a bit iffy, but you could build an offense around him. And I still am not moving off that idea. You could build an offense around Karl Anthony Towns. I still believe that. This Timberwolves team is built so weirdly that I just don't think that he is able to flourish in this system. Move him to a new system, you're going to see the old Karl Anthony Towns again. It's just that Anthony Edwards kind of is so ball dominant. It's kind of hard for Karl Anthony Towns to kind of be the secondary option, especially when he doesn't have any room in the paint because Rudy Gobert is taking up that entire area, so he has to stay in the corner all the time. But at the end of the day, I feel like people just forget this guy's ability in the post, one of the best post players in the league, one of the most efficient 3-point shooters. This guy can get to the free throw line as one of the best free throw shooters in the league. I think when you really like boil it down, Karl Anthony Towns' talent is still up there, but because of the recent playoffs, I'm not even going to say successes, the failures that he's had in the last couple of playoff runs, people tend to forget that. And I want to attribute that more to fit than to Karl Anthony Towns himself. Sure, does he need to be a better defender? Of course. That's how you stay on the floor in the NBA. That's how you finish off these games. That's how you're able to not be abused on pick and rolls, which Karl Anthony Towns has been. I mean, both of us were freaking like you mentioned, we were flaming him the entire playoff run this past season. But at the end of the day, I think that we need to remember that Karl Anthony's like offensive skill set is almost unicorn-like. We don't see this much in any of these other players. And yes, people like Siakam, people like Triple J will have the defensive upside over him, but the ability for him that I think that we just haven't been seeing the last couple of seasons has to do more with fit. And if he is the next person off of the Timberwolves, which I think makes the most sense, especially with the way they just paid Rudy Gobert and his trade values in the absolute toilet right now. But with Karl Anthony Towns, give him like more touches, another opportunity, another system, you'll see that he could still be that 26 and 12 type of guy. The guy that NBA team said is the future of the NBA. I think that you could still have a borderline top 10 guy here in Karl Anthony Towns. Even at the power forward position, I think that he can still like be as successful, especially on the offensive end. Give me him at number 3. I just feel like people are losing sight as to what Karl Anthony Towns is just because of the system that he is placed in right now.
So I'm going to take that last point that you used, and that actually be the biggest anchor to my point for putting Karl Anthony Towns lower as opposed to this high. I think at the end of the day, we do still need to evaluate this as at the power forward position. I think one of the biggest things that you continue to state was his ability to get back to the Karl Anthony Towns of old. I think the main thing that's factored in that is a lot of his back to the back ability and back to the basket ability and some of the things that he was granted the ability to do as a 5-man. Now, granted, I think his offensive capability probably was more unicorn-like at the 5 as a stretch 5 that was able to shoot the ball at a high clip, still be able to put his back to the basket and play that way. I think at the 4, a lot of what Karl Anthony Towns does effectively is exactly what you need to do as an effective 4-man when your center is a rim running shot blocking center. So now I feel as though, as opposed to being a unicorn, Karl Anthony Towns has kind of fell down to the pack in terms of what his ability translates to at the position he plays. So although I think Karl Anthony Towns is really good and I think he's really effective offensively, as I said before, how effective he is at the 4 position is evaluated a lot differently than how he was evaluated as a talent at the 5. I think that's even part of the weight between him and Jaren Jackson Jr. I think that there's a big gap, maybe not a significant gap, but a decent gap offensively in terms of where Karl Anthony Towns is and where Jaren Jackson is offensively. I think that you make a really great point about Triple J in terms of there maybe even being an offensive gear we haven't seen from him yet. I'm also giving him the benefit of the doubt there as well. But these are two guys that shoot the 3 ball very effectively for 4 men. They both are very good off pick and pop. They can put their back to the basket a little bit, be effective around the rim. But what's the one thing that separates them, especially as fours? Jaren Jackson's ability to roam around the basket, be a big time shot blocker, and still be able to step out on the perimeter and guard at a pretty decent level for a guy playing that big spot. We just mentioned it. Karl Anthony Towns, you put him out on that island, it's a different animal. And nobody's asking him to necessarily be a world beater out there, but being a turnstile is not necessarily your best way to help yourself either. So I don't want to demean Karl Anthony Towns at all in any way when I talk about his effectiveness on the floor. But I think the biggest thing to weigh in when you talk about him in these rankings is specifically his ability at the four as opposed to his ability at the five.
I get that. I honestly do. I mean, like, I just feel like, for me, it feels like that there's so many better fits with our Karl Anthony Towns at the five than there is the Rudy Gobert, which really limits Karl Anthony Towns' area of, like, movement. Like, a Brook Lopez would be, like, absolutely exceptional in that position over there. Sure, you can, like, make up for his defensive woes, but I feel like you could still maximize Karl Anthony Towns' production there at the four, which I just don't think the Timberwolves have the type of lineup to really take advantage of that yet. I understand your point. I really do. And I think that maybe if it was a top five centers, he would maybe, like, garner some sort of, like, by, like, maybe some sort of, like, maybe a different way of looking things in that sort of sense. But I think that his talent is just being forgotten just because of where he is, like, positioned at the Timberwolves right now. If maybe this is just a cry for me to say move this guy to a new team because he needs to get the the most out of him, like, somewhere else, because I just don't think it's where in Minnesota. But I still see the talent there. I still think that he is one of the top guys in the league, like, to one of the top bigs in the league. At the moment, I feel like he could still be in that number 3 spot right now. But I do understand your point. I don't mind that. I don't mind looking at it that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable on both sides. I mean, shoot, you kind of opened my eyes a little bit further to looking at Karl Anthony Towns on a higher scale, because I was actually afraid I was the one being too high on Cat. So now that I see that you have him at 3, that actually makes me even feel a little bit more comfortable about putting him at 5, as opposed to leaning towards potentially leaving him off this list in general, which was actually where I was kind of coming in at originally. So to see your eyes high on him being at 5 actually makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, no worries. I feel you. I feel like we have the same top 2. Jay, who's at your number 2?
So I have KD at 2, and I have Giannis at 1.
Yeah, we both have the same one. I'm not gonna beat around the bush about it, but yeah, let's talk about KD first.
Yeah, I mean, this is a to each his own type of thing, right? I think at the end of the day, if you had KD number 1, I don't think I would fight you on that necessarily either. But I think this is, again, where I think the Zion Williamson argument also kind of leaks over to somewhere like this. Kevin Durant's ability to stay on the floor as of recent memory has been a big detriment to how we view him overall. I don't necessarily think that anybody feels lesser of KD, but I think that when you think about the dependability of Kevin Durant moving forward, it's something that we now have to pencil in as a part of his seasons now, right? It's something that now you almost have to come to expectation with. And that's always tough with these superstar players, because we always know what they look like when healthy, at the peak of their powers. We always rely on the revisionist history as opposed to what we know is right there in front of us. But he's still one of the greatest mid-range shooters in the NBA. He's still one of the most portable players in the NBA in terms of his ability to drop him into any kind of offensive system and him be effective. I think one of the things that went really underrated in his final season with the Brooklyn Nets before being moved off is he was having, like, scarily one of the better defensive seasons that he's had in recent memory, which I think is definitely a big upside for him, because that's something that his defensive capabilities with the overall build that he has and the overall instinct that he has, that's what kind of can always put him in a different echelon as a two-way player at his position, and put him in a different conversation overall in terms of where he ranks among some of the best of all time. Kevin Durant, I think, is still got the kind of translatable play style that's going to keep him in this league for another 3, 4, maybe even 5 seasons. And that's crazy to think about. But I just think that he is a dude who I think can still be your best player on a championship team, but I think the resources around him are required to do a little bit more than we're used to with a guy that we consider to be this talented. It's kind of like the LeBron James argument we made last week.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's hard to say that we're kind of dissing a guy for putting him at number 2 in his position. It's the same thing we said with LeBron last week. But at the same time, Kevin Durant, and what we've noticed with him in terms of what he needs to be successful is he needs to not like with LeBron James, you need the role players to really be there to for him to be effective. But Kevin Durant, you need the stars there. You need to have like the second, the third option, the Kyrie James Harden in this scenario, the Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, for him to be at his best. You need to make sure that you have kind of that big three, big four sort of environment around KD, mostly because that's how he feels like he can challenge himself the most at. And I think it's not because of like his ability alone. I just think that when he realizes he has like 2 or 3 other guys like all-star, superstar level players around him, that makes him want to elevate his game, and that's what makes him wants to feel better. I feel like when he's like around like other players like especially like in that like Brooklyn Nets era when when Harden was kind of injured and Kyrie Irving wasn't in the lineup, he felt like he was above the team in a sort of way. Kevin Durant. Maybe it's not because like of his ego or anything, but I feel like he just doesn't his play isn't enough to kind of carry that type of group of guys over the hump where he needs like kind of those other guys around him. This is why like it was hard to compare him and LeBron back in the day. LeBron, you give him like a certain like roster, maybe it doesn't have to be like the big 3 system, but you give him a certain amount of role players, he can drag that team over the line. KD, we can never really see that, and ever since the Golden State Warriors days, where he hasn't been to a finals, or he hasn't won a championship since those days, it's kind of proven to be true. Maybe it's the injuries too, which we of course has to bring him down a little bit, but at the end of the day, Kevin Durant, the more and more you advance his career, the more you kind of have to kind of cater to him and cater to like what he wants the team to look like, and that's what's gonna get the best out of him, and that's just the way KD is, and I think that's the way he's kind of always been. But he's still elite. He's still a top 5, top 10 player in the league, in my opinion. This is not like dissing him in any way. He's still going to be like a top 15 player of all time when things are all said and done. He's just at a number 2. I think it's completely reasonable to have him there. And at number 1, Jay talked to me about Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Dude, the hilarious thing about Giannis Antetokounmpo is we spent all of last season watching him put up video game numbers and being unimpressed because we're just used to it. Like, that's insane. That's actually insane. The dude averaged a career high 31.1 points per game, still had 11.8 rebounds per game and 5.7 assists. And I think we weren't even having like a real strong conversation about him in the top 2 race for MVP. Like, it seemed like it was literally just Jokic and Embiid basically the entire way. And of course, every now and then, if you watch ESPN or Fox Sports, they try to throw in a random name. Giannis might have gotten a little buzz for a while. I remember John Morant was getting Kendrick Perkins love for MVP for like a hot second. Yeah, there's always going to be somebody, right? But it never felt like there was any real traction for anybody except for Jokic and Embiid to be considered as top 2 MVP candidates, despite the fact that Giannis had arguably had his most effective offensive season. Now, I think the most notable thing was maybe it was a little mild-mannered in the sense that defensively, we did not feel him as much as we did in seasons past, which felt a little bit off. But I think that just goes to the credit of Brook Lopez picking up so much of the quote-unquote slack, because where Giannis picked up offensively and was required to, because remember, Chris Middleton either was not on the floor or was not nearly effective as he had been in years past due to coming off of a significant injury. So Giannis was tasked with being much more relied on as an offensive threat, and he stepped up to the plate. And so did Brook Lopez as a result of that by stepping up defensively and was arguably Defensive Player of the Year. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr. won it, and that was my pick to win it. But many people thought that Brook Lopez was a legitimate candidate and honestly could have been the winner of the award. That goes to show the continuity within that roster. That also goes to show the self-awareness of Giannis Antetokounmpo to understand that he has to make up in a department where his team needs him most, and then his team being able to fill in the gaps. And it worked out very effectively. Now, of course, once they got to the postseason, things got a little tricky, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, as long as you have him on your roster, your team is kind of almost guaranteed to win 50 plus games a year.
Yeah.
Almost guaranteed. You know he's going to play 60 plus games. I don't think there's a single year. The closest thing to him playing less than 60 was when he played 61 in the 2020-2021 year, which, come on now. I mean, we can't really put too much behind that because, again, it's still above 60 games. The dude is just everything you say about Zion, you say about Giannis with better faith. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, he's miles above Zion defensively.
Mm-hmm.
He has the offensive game. He's getting better as a playmaker, one of the top rebounders in the league, one of the most dominant probably the most dominant force we have in the league at the moment. That really is all. That's really all it is. The reason why they lost in the first round this year is because he missed the first couple games, and then when he came back, he still wasn't the same guy because of that injury. The reason why he wasn't in the MVP discussions is because he just missed he missed a decent chunk of games, which we're not used to Giannis missing. At the end of the day, Giannis is still arguably the best player in the league. You can put him there, you can put Jokic there, whoever you want to see fit, but Giannis is still going to be just as dominant. He's going to come into this next season always motivated. He's going to be a great leader on and off the court, and he could just do everything you need him to do. There's a reason where in Basketball Reference he's listed as a power forward, small forward, point guard / shooting guard in this league.
No, seriously.
He could literally do everything out there on the basketball court. And him about his shooting ability, I don't want to hear anything about that. If that was a problem, we wouldn't be listing him as a two-time MVP and an NBA champion at this point. He doesn't need that. His game is too good, and he's going to continue to be just as good going forward. He's just a type of player. For me, easily the number one power forward in the league. But those are our lists. Let us know down below what you guys think. 3 to 5 was very interesting for us. It might be interesting for you too. So let us know who your 3 to 5s are, because I feel like even for the most part, I think that 1 and 2 is kind of synonymous around most people watching basketball. But let us know if we're missing anyone. If we didn't even mention one of the guys that you wanted us to talk about, let us know down below. Jay, we are reaching the end part of the podcast episode, but we're gonna go next with the NBA draft. And for the first time in this draft, Jay, I want you to think about this without any of the basketball accomplishments, basketball skill, nothing. Because in this draft, we're going to try drafting a starting 5 of the best names in NBA history. We're not involving talent. We're not involving any of their accomplishments. Just the best names. It could be from anywhere from the 70s to now. Anyone in the league all time. Jay, how are you feeling about this draft?
Man, that I got the criteria for this one because I feel like there's a bunch of cool names you can pick that are still super talented, but not necessarily focusing on it from an entertainment standpoint. So even if these guys were to play against each other, I'm still going to factor in how hilarious either the name itself or the backstory behind the name is overall. So this should be fun because this is definitely a different concept from how we're facing off against each other with almost like 2K my teams in mind, but this is definitely a much more entertaining way to go about it.
100%. To be honest with this draft, I think it's fine if we go back and forth. The serpentine draft doesn't really matter at this point. I think we can just go back and forth with our draft here. let's just try to make the most fun team possible. Jay, you got the first pick. Who do you want to go with?
First pick, man. I'm gonna go with the ungoogleable, the guy you just never should search up. Let's go with Evan Fournier as the first overall pick, man. Do not type this man's name into the Google search. There are some terrifying things on the opposite side of that. I'm going to start with Evan Fournier, try to start off high.
Oh, that's a great pick. Do not search up what a Fournier is. If you've been a basketball fan for a minute, you all know what it is. Even when I think there's a Twitter exchange where Evan Fournier was like, "Who the heck is Evan Fournier?" Like Fournier replied to that tweet saying, "Don't Google it, please. I'm begging you." So he even knows all about it too, which is hilarious. That's honestly a fantastic first overall pick there. For myself, to be honest, one of my favorite names of all time has to be said just because of how not just because of how like the way you have to say it together. He is one of the like most influential guys in African basketball history, especially with the camps he holds there. But one of my favorite names of all time, Luke Richard Mbamute.
Oh man.
I absolutely love that name. I mean, like before, I mean, like near the end of his career, he just went with Luke Mbamute. But when you add the Richard in there as well, oh, that's like peak NBA like names right there. Luke Richard Mbamute is my first pick.
Oh man. All right, so my second pick is going to be since we were talking about FIBA World Cup stuff, I'm gonna lean with somebody off the Greece team. No, not Giannis, but Georgios Papagiannis.
Georgios Papagiannis.
Yes,
Love
sir.
it.
Arguably one of the most interesting early round picks. I think that if you listen to most draft evaluators here in 2023, this was definitely a guy that was a big swing and a miss at the center position a couple seasons back.
Yeah.
One of the most hilarious names in NBA history to me personally. One of the most interesting players that I think when you think about his player type, he could have been kind of a really insane player. He was a guy that I think was getting weird, like wasn't he like a player that was getting like weird like Kristaps Porzingis kind of like buzz?
Yeah, he got some weird comparisons in the league for sure.
Yeah, man, he was getting some insane buzz comparison wise. So, nonetheless, Georgios Papagiannis, that's my second guy.
Love that. Absolutely love God. I love that. With my second pick, we got to go with the name that influenced the freaking Sham God dribble move, the dribble package. We got to go with God Sham God. He played only 20 games in the NBA, but he counts. People know him for that name 100%. He only averaged like 3 points a game. But come on, that name is just too fire. And when you have a dribble named after you as well, you know that's a fire name. Let me go with God Sham God.
Oh man, shout out God Sham God. I think when we have NBA conversations, his name falls out because he kind of had a cup of coffee. But in terms of the influence on basketball, come on, man, he's there. He's here to stay. My third pick. Oh man, I got to, bro. My third, I'm going. I gotta go double bigs. I'm taking Nene. How many people in the NBA? How many people in the NBA have only their first and their last name is the only thing on that jersey? Come on, man. Are we serious? No, you probably, if you're a real NBA head, you probably know Nene's first name. But if you play 2K, you never ask that man's last name. You just know that man is Nene. That is Nene on the Denver Nuggets over there. Come on, man. Let's be real.
100%, man.
Let's be real.
I thought I was safe with taking him later, but I love that's one of my favorite names, just Nene.
Come on, man. Just Nene, man. He is the Oprah of the NBA. Let's be honest, man.
100%, Nene. Love that guy. Freaking money mid-range jumper as well. This guy was great. For real? That mid-range jumper was money. Oh, next pick for myself. I gotta go with another guard, man. Do I? You know what? I mentioned him a bit beforehand, but man, his name feels like a freaking grocery store list. Give me OJ Mayo.
Oh man,
OJ Mayo. He got kicked out of the league because of substance abuse, yes, back in the day. But man, his name is just so funny, just because you could just see that on a grocery list, like OJ, and you have Mayo underneath. It just fits so perfectly.
Oh my
Absolutely
God.
love the name back in the day. Give me OJ Mayo.
Bro, that's a legend. That's a legendary one. I like that. I'm gonna try my best to top OJ Mayo. It's gonna be a little tough, but I'm gonna try my best. At the point guard position, give me Fat Lever at the point spot.
That's a good one.
Oh man, come on, bro. Are you serious? And low-key effective guard. You can say whatever you want to say about his name. Low-key effective guard back in his day too.
He one of the OG like Mr. Triple Doubles. Like he had 100 triple doubles back in the day. If you check out the triple double list, I think he's somewhere in the top 10 as well. So he could do a bit of everything. He's a solid player back then, especially for the Denver Nuggets back in the day. Yeah. That's a damn good pick. Fat Lever. I think that's your 4th round pick, right?
That's the 4th one. Yep.
All right, my next pick. So I got OJ Mayo, got myself Sham God. got got a pretty good list, not gonna lie so far, but it's hard to not pick a name when you have when he has basically the same first and last name. God, give me Bol Bol.
Oh my gosh, that was literally that was literally my last pick, dog. I was literally typing him in as we speak.
Bol Bol, man. Come on. I mean, his dad was Manute Bol, which is already a cool enough name enough. But the fact that this man got named Bol Bol, one of the best names in NBA history. Give me him. One of the most beloved players in the league as well. Give me Bol Bol.
Oh my gosh, man. That's a legendary pick. That's a legendary pick, bro. Because that was definitely who I was gonna go with my last one.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll tell you who the honorable mention was. My honorable mention was Meta World Peace. But you know the name that gave Ron Artest the ability to this guy walked so that Ron Artest could run. There is no Meta World Peace if I don't have World Be Free at my 3 spot. Let me get World Be Free, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, this draft would have been completely invalid if World Be Free was not.
Come on, man. There's no way. Come on.
There's no way. I could go with Meta World Peace in my last pick, but I'm gonna go with a freaking curveball. There's no name that has a holiday in it. Give me Raheem Christmas.
Oh man, Raheem Christmas. Oh my God,
Christmas. He played like 30 games in the NBA, averaged 2 points and 2 rebounds in the game, but I don't care. I remember him for his summer league jams. Having the nickname, the name Christmas at the back of your jersey, that's already a dub. Give me him, my final pick. Holy.
I feel like, dude, oh my gosh, I do remember this dude. I was about to say, I think he played on the Syracuse team with Dion Waiters, I think.
Yes, he did, but dude, I just remember him from the summer league. I remember I was watching summer league in like high school and shit. I remember this guy just having the most like powerful dunks. I swear to God.
Bro, what? Raheem Christmas for the win. Oh man, that's legend. That's legend.
Oh, what a draft! What a draft, Jay. Give me your lineup.
All right, so at my 1 spot, I got Fat Lever. At at the 2 guard spot, I got Evan Fournier. At the 3, I've got World Be Free. At the 4, I've got Georgios Papagiannis. And at the 5, I've got Nene.
That's a damn good team. My love these freaking names, bro.
Oh man.
At my point guard position, gotta go with God Sham. God, he's gonna be the one running the team. At the 2, I'm trying to remember who my 2 guard was. Damn. I know I had Luke Richard Mbah-a-Moute at the number 3. Give me Bol Bol at the 4. Give me at the 5, give me Raheem Christmas. Why did I forget my number 2? He was like my second pick. How did I forget him? It was damn, what the heck? How did I forget my number 2? What the heck? I forgot. This is what happens when you don't write down stuff, y'all. This is what happens when you forget to write down stuff. It was, damn. Oh my goodness. Do I have to do like a freaking like walk back? Okay. So I had Gauchian. Did I have a second pick? I had to have, right?
I don't know if you picked a 2 guard. I think you had another guy though.
I for sure had another guy. I'm trying to remember because you took Nene. I think that's what threw me off. Like when you took Nene, like, I was like, damn, I wish I had him. But I swear I had like someone else like in the chamber. Oh man, I'm gonna have to look back at this like afterwards. I'm gonna freaking like mess me up because my brain is all over the place because these names are freaking hilarious. But I gotta remember it at some point. But yeah, my team is basically that. I know I had a 2 guard somewhere as well. If you guys see this before I even edit it, I'll add it at some point. I might add my voice at the end at some point when I check it out. But yeah, those are our teams down below. Let us know who you guys got. If there's any other names that we're missing out on, because there's a few good ones. I mean, Dragon Bender was on my list as well that I was thinking about. Was a pretty good name. I was thinking about I mean, you took Fat Lever, which is another one of my top picks. But there's a lot of good ones. Was there any ones that you were thinking of?
Well, shoot, the Bol Bol one, like I said, I was literally typing him into my lineup as you said his name, so I knew that like that was gonna be one of them. Isaiah Cannon was gonna be another one.
OJ Mayo, I finally found.
Oh yeah, OJ Mayo, yeah, that was the 2. Yeah, because I forgot the joke. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of good names in NBA history. I mean, again, this isn't about talent. This is about freaking finding the
No.
best names, and we did that here today. Final segment of the show, and you know what time it is. Jay has a 2-1 lead in the series. I took one last week finally with the Detroit Pistons, but we are continuing the series of going back and forth with randomizing NBA teams and trying to name as many players from that franchise as much as possible. Last week with the Detroit Pistons, of course, we did the Raptors and Bulls already from the previous weeks. This may be the last one we do on the actual pod, but don't you worry. We're going to be having TikToks of a bunch of this stuff coming out in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to be posting those specifically on the TikTok and Instagrams, so make sure to follow at Hit Your Freezers podcast if you want to continue on with the series. But Jay, I'm going to be spinning the wheel again. Let's see what team we got up next. Okay. This team has a lot of history. There's a lot of teams, we have a lot of players we could choose from here. The New York Knicks.
Oh my God. Oh.
The New
Ooh.
York Knicks.
I mean, this can either go by real quick or real. This might take a while. It depends.
This might take a while. Okay, we're gonna give each other like a couple of seconds to try to think of a bogey player to kind of put
Right.
down. Ooh,
Oh, never mind. I don't even think I need to look. I think I know who mine's gonna be.
I have mine too.
Okay, cool.
I have mine too. All right, Jay, I'm gonna let you go first. Back-to-back players. Remember the rules. Say the bogey player, you're out. Repeat a player that's already been said, you're out. Jay, you got the first one. Let's go.
All right. Start off hot. I'm gonna start with John Starks.
John Starks. Love that. Love that. Latrell Sprewell.
That's a good one. David Lee.
Ooh, love that David Lee pick. Tyson Chandler.
Ooh. Okay. Um, let's get the easy one out the way. Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing. Okay. I don't even know if you remember this name, Alonzo Trier.
Oh my gosh. Shout out to Alonzo Trier. Oh my gosh, shout out to Buddy. Landry Fields.
Atlanta Hawks GM Landry Fields. Love that. Absolutely love that pick. Next up. I'm scared to say one name. I'm scared to say one name now that I think about it. All right. Allen Houston.
Ooh, that's a good one. OG Larry Johnson.
You got the old Larry Johnson there on the Knicks.
Yeah.
Pretty good pick. Lou Amundsen.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Raymond Felton.
Oh, Raymond Felton, good pick. I mentioned him earlier. Jose Calderon.
Ooh, that's a good one too. Danilo Gallinari.
Ooh, yeah, that's like mid 2000s Knicks.
Yeah.
Speaking of mid 2000s Knicks, 3-time dunk champ Nate Robinson.
Ooh, Nate, that's a good one. I'm trying to get in my 2K bag, and then I'll really just start to get. Let's try Marcus Camby.
Good one.
Ooh,
And knowing you and your 2K bag, there's one guy I'm afraid to say, and I'm not gonna say it. There's one guy I'm afraid to say, and I'm not saying it for the life of me. Moving on, Charles Oakley.
Oh man, that's a good one. Crap. I feel like I keep getting him. Well, maybe it's no, maybe it's just back to back. Bob McAdoo. I think I got him in a draft we did one
Yeah,
time.
in a draft.
That's
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
That's why I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Bob McAdoo played with him.
Yeah, sure. No worries. You're good. Luke Cornett.
Oh my God! I don't even want to talk about that man. Jesus. Jerry Lucas.
Gary Lucas, you're still good. Walt Frazier.
God, now he's digging deep.
Ooh.
Willis Reed.
Of course. R.I.P. to the legend. R.I.P.
Facts. Safety.
Oh my goodness. Michael Ray Richardson.
What the heck?
He's like a 70s player. I remember.
Yeah, I know. What the heck? Okay, easy pool. Carmelo Anthony.
Okay, you're good. Do I go current? Emmanuel Quickly.
Oh, that's a good one. I was just listening to a podcast that brought him up the other day.
I think it's some
I'm
deep.
trying to think of like Bulls that played for. Oh my gosh. Let's do like Bill Cartwright.
Bill Cartwright was on that team. You're
Yeah.
good. Lexi Shved.
What the heck,
Lexi Shved.
dude? Ron Baker?
We're going to the mid 2010s Knicks bag. I love it.
Come on, man.
Let's go with. Come on, it would be wrong if I didn't say this name. Tingus Pingus.
Hingis
Porzingis.
Hingis. Oh my gosh.
Porzingis.
Oh. Oh man, I don't want to tap. I don't want to tap. Oh, Mark Jackson. Oh my
Mark
gosh.
Jackson, you're
I
good.
almost sold. I almost sold.
You're good. Alfred Payton.
Frank Ntilikina.
Please be safe. Julius Randle.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good.
Dennis Smith Jr.
All right, okay. Gonna go with. Oh gosh. Mitchell Robinson.
Oh man, that's good. Jason Kidd.
Jason Kidd. Jeez. I'm gonna go with now Andrea Bargnani.
Oh crap. I forgot he played on that team. Oh my gosh. Okay, don't repeat anybody. Don't repeat anybody. Oh my gosh. I'm drawing a blank. No, he wasn't in the trade. Don't say that. Don't say that because I don't think he played for them. Okay, I'm bailing. We haven't said RJ Barry yet, have we?
We have not said RJ
Okay,
Barrett.
cool. I'm bailing until I get a better name. I gotta get out of there.
Cam Reddish.
Damn it.
Whew. Gotta think of some recent Knicks failures as well.
I'm about to just start naming trash. I think, yeah, I gotta go deep in my trash bag now. I gotta think of terrible trades. Let's do Eddie Curry.
Eddie Curry, that's a damn good one. He was one of the guys I was thinking of going with next. Who else played for the Knicks, man? This is
I
tough.
got another really good
Jared
one.
Jeffries.
Oh, that's a good one too. Ronnie Turioff.
Ronnie Turiaf. The man they wanted Steph Curry to follow them, but instead they had to sell for Jordan Hill.
Jordan Hill. I'm gonna get into my 2K bag with one of the most hilarious jump shot timings in NBA history. Shout out to Ronaldo Balkman.
Ronaldo Bachman, Jesus. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Did any of
god.
us say Earl Monroe?
No, we haven't actually.
Oh my
Which is
God.
funny because we said Walt Frazier earlier.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no, we already said him. Uh
Yeah, I got a couple in the back still. I'm safe. I'm safe for now.
Crap. Oh my gosh. I'm just afraid to repeat anybody.
This
That's
is
my
one of the longest ones we've done, to be fair.
Yeah. No, I told you it was gonna be safety. Oh, okay. 2K. Dave DeBuscher. 2K.
Oh my. Okay, cool.
Come on,
Bill
man.
Bradley,
Bernard King?
Amari Stoudemire.
Oh crap. We didn't say him yet?
Nah.
Oh shoot. Oh my god. I know this guy, but I can't think of his name. He played point guard. Oh my god, I can't think of his name, dog.
Oh my God, this is getting down to the wire.
Oh. Josh Hart. I'm bailing. Shout out to Josh Hart. He just got paid today. He just got paid. Shout out to Josh Hart, man.
4 years, 81 million. 4 years, 81 million. Josh Hart, damn good pull over there.
Oh
Now I gotta reach deep into this bag. Damn. What else do I got left?
Who else? Who else? Who else?
Man. I know the Dallas Mavericks and Knicks did a couple deals together. I'm just trying to think of some other guys that like I think that there's gonna be so many guys that we missed out on. It's just like when you're in the moment, there's like so many like names that you're just for sure gonna miss.
Yeah.
I gotta get in my bag.
Lock in, bro. Lock in.
Lock in, lock in. Who else am I missing from that time period?
And 90s Knicks.
Charles Smith, the man that MJ abused.
Dang it.
Charles Smith.
Come on, TV, tap out, bro. Oh my gosh, tap out, bro.
Ain't giving this up yet.
Greg Anthony.
Greg Anthony, that's a good one. Damn.
Yeah.
Got a good with him.
Mm.
Ramon Sessions.
What the heck, man? Okay.
I remember the cup of coffee he had there. Oh my gosh.
I remember him more for Charlotte, though.
I'm gonna double check. Just in case I'm wrong. I'm gonna double check.
Double check that. I remember him more for Charlotte, though, but you probably are right.
2020, 2017, 2018. Okay, we're good. Ramon Sessions, Jesus.
Okay, I did Ron Baker, but I didn't do Vin Baker.
You're still safe. Okay. Yo, bro, I need you to tap out. This is like hurting my brain right now. Who else do I have to say that hasn't been said yet? You said DeBusschere already.
Yeah, we said DeBusschere.
Man, what? Where's some current guys am I missing? What the heck?
Oh, I think I'm tapped on current guys at this point. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not, but I am. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, this is really tough. How would we say Jalen Brunson yet? What?
He was actually next for me. So that's
Jalen Brunson. Thank goodness it came to my mind.
Some more Bulls players that played for the Knicks. That's always gonna be my go-to because like. Who's somebody else? Oh, Ronnie Brewer. Shout out Ronnie Brewer. Shout out the big homie.
How have we not
the ugliest jump shots on 2K ever?
Oh my gosh. How have we not hit any bogey players yet either? This is insane.
I think because we're actually doing better with the bogey player.
I think we're doing better now. You're right. Gotta think it through. Who else have they? Who? Yeah, F it. I gotta say it. I was too scared to say him before. Jeremy Lin.
Dang it. Nah, that's not it. That's who I thought your bogey player was, so I didn't say him.
Okay, cool.
Dang it.
Thank God. Okay, I had to pull something out.
Shannon Brown?
He did have a cup of coffee there. To be fair. Oh, thank God. That actually unlocked someone else I remembered. Sasha Vujacic.
Oh, what the heck? Okay. I might have helped you on that one.
No, once I remembered like old Lakers players that played there, I'm like, okay, good. I remember Sasha played there for a bit. I'm still safe.
I'm on the verge of saying my own bogey player. That's what I'm getting messed up.
Yeah.
Dang, you already said Ramon Sessions, even though I don't think I would have got that one, but that's a good pull. Who else was on that dang Knicks team, man? Who was on that 24 Knicks team, man? I mean, 2014 Knicks team.
I have one guy I got next.
Okay. I might have a few, but it kind of just depends on how I put them together. I'm going to say Trey Burke.
Okay, you're good. J.R. Smith's brother, Chris Smith.
Dang it, no. Derrick Rose?
Derrick Rose is still Joakim Noah. Okay, thank God. I remember him trying to.
Okay. We're almost. This is almost hurting us because we know this is gonna take longer. Taj Gibson.
We're just naming Bulls players now, I guess. Sure.
I told you, when in doubt.
That does help. For sure. Damn it. Who else, man? Who else from those early teams? Bro, what the heck? How can I not think of players? I'm not trying to get too long. I'm gonna give myself a 30-second timer just so I don't prolong this. I'll give myself to have a timer literally right beside me. If I don't get it from this 30 seconds, I'm tapping out. Trying to think of some other ones. Damn. 90s Knicks players. Oh man. Gosh. Please, what's his name? Anthony Mason. Oh my gosh, thank you. Anthony Mason.
Didn't say him. We said David Lee already, right?
You said that like mad in the beginning.
Okay, so the person that comes to mind if we've already said him is fake David Lee, Ignis Brazdeikis out of Michigan.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Love that. Ignis Brazdeikis. Love that.
yeah.
Um,
If you get this next one, I'll nuke myself. Cause
Greg
I
Steensma.
dang it. Okay, yeah, no.
It's great.
Okay. I'm gonna nuke myself. I'm gonna nuke myself. My bogey player was Amon Shumpert.
Oh, that was my bogey player. What?
Really?
No way.
What the heck? Okay, that's a funny ass outcome. I'm not gonna lie, because that was my nuke. That was my nuke player. So okay. So as the person who took the fall for it, even though our bogey player was the same, I do lose. But that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I'm gonna double check if Greg Steensma actually played for the Knicks. Oh my gosh, he didn't. You won.
Oh!
You won. I thought he played for the Knicks. What am I thinking? I have to double check. I for some reason I imagined him in the Knicks jersey. What the heck?
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, you won that. No, you won that. Damn, that was really good.
There was so let me do some Googles real quick.
I gotta see. There's like, who's in the Knicks roster that we didn't?
So okay. Remember we were naming. Remember I was naming dudes from the Nuggets trade.
Yeah.
I didn't say Aaron Aflalo.
Yeah, you didn't say Aaron Aflalo.
He was like one of my favorite players out of that trade. When he ended up on the Knicks, I was like low key kind of hyped because he was one of my favorite players around the time that had happened. At least on 2K.
Yeah, we didn't say Quinn Grimes. We didn't say Isaiah Hartenstein. We didn't say. Didn't even say Evan Fournier.
I don't. Maybe really early on.
That's tough, but
you didn't say Michael Beasley either. Mike Bibby. Yeah. Chauncey Billups.
T-Mac. Oh my gosh, T-Mac.
T-Mac had a little stint with them towards the end.
Oh man, I really thought this is what happens like when you're in this mode. Like your mind just gets fogged. We're missing so many obvious ones, and I tried going with Greg Steensma because I thought he played for the freaking Knicks.
Maurice Cheeks, like come on, bro. That would have even been a good one for the funny names draft.
Yeah, Mo Cheeks, yeah, for sure. Man, that was a crazy. That was the longest we've got, bro. That was the longest.
That was insane. That was insane.
All right. I mean, Jay's up 3-1 just because I messed up on my thing. I had to double check the Greg Steensma. I'm an honest man. I wasn't gonna bullshit my way through that one. But yeah, I messed up. It's all good. Let us know. Again, this is probably not gonna happen on the pod anymore. So check it out on the TikTok and Instagram pages. We're gonna post more of these on that. But besides that, man, this is the end of today's episode. Jay, before we head out, what do you want to tell these beautiful people?
Man, look. If you guys were worried about me and TV's basketball knowledge, blame the last segment, bro. That last segment should tell you everything you know. Neither me nor TV are Knicks fans, and we got a little bit too much in the chamber. So stay tuned for the TikTok. I've been consistent. You know that now that I'm being consistent on TikTok. Now you know we're really getting stuff together. Now that I have like 5-6 videos in 2 days. So if that doesn't tell you that we're locked in, I don't know what does. TV's been doing his thing with the NBA universe. Stay tuned for that. We're giving you a really good daily dose of long and short form content along with the podcast. Podcast clips coming out soon. Hopefully we can kind of make this is going to be one of the funnier ones to try to piece together.
I can't believe I lost to a Greg Steensma, bro. Like, why the heck did I think he played for the Knicks? Whatever, bro. But yeah, that's the end of today's episode. Thank you all for watching, listening. Remember to subscribe. All that good stuff on the YouTubes, like, share, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, show us some support over there. And remember to follow Hit Your Free Throws down in the description below for Instagram and TikTok for the best daily NBA content. And we're going to start posting stuff on our individual pages once again in the future, so be on the lookout for TV on Basketball and the Knocked On Jay content as well. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. Peace.
We didn't even do Jimmer for that.